Okay, and a reminder to keep our mics off so we keep disruption from dogs and cats and babies and posties to a minimum as we go through. So that's all the housekeeping notes, and back to the chat quickly to see who we have with us. Oh, great, very engaged crew we have here today from all over the shop. We've got Swansea, we've got Brixton, we've got Edinburgh, we've got all sorts of places across the country. Great to see a variety of different organisations too. Children with Cancer Fund in East Sussex. We have someone from Lambeth Larder. We have someone who is a digital media and projects coordinator at Swansea Music Art Digital. Hi Anna. I'm just picking these out at random, so I'm sorry if I miss you. Susan from a mental health charity in Aberdeen, and let's look at Jan, who's running a small community library in North Wales. So a really great spread there, and thanks all for getting involved in the chat. And I'm really looking forward to sharing a bit about social media today. Before we get going, I am just going to give a quick little bit of information about Action Funder. Some of you know Action Funder well. I think a few of you have actually managed to get funding on Action Funder already, which is great. And Action Funder is all about funding community projects. So it's a free and easy to use site that matches community projects with funding opportunities that are put out by businesses and foundations. The platform launched quite recently and has already been really popular. So all you have to do is sign up, create an organisation profile, and then post any projects that you want to get funding for. Funds are launching all the time, and when a fund launches that matches with your project, you're automatically matched and the funder is notified and given a chance to fund your project. If you're invited to get funded, you simply click accept and the money lands in your account within a week or so. So it's a very easy to use platform. It takes you the whole way through from being funded to offering you a chance to post updates about your project, and then gives you an easy to fill out impact report that automatically shares back to the funder. If you have any questions on Action Funder or anything else for that matter, particularly social media related questions, we will have a Q&A session at the end of today's workshop. A quick note on jargon. At Action Funder, we talk about community organisations and groups, and then we refer to the projects that those organisations and groups run. So an organisation might be my community garden, and then the project that I'm looking to get funded might be a sensory garden area for students with extra learning needs. So that's enough on jargon and Action Funder and intro, I think. Let's jump into it. We're going to pack today's workshop with information, and it would be great to know how much you already know, how confident you already are on social media. So we are going to share a poll. If you could quickly jump in and respond to that, and do ignore the typo on the middle somewhat confident option, and just go for it. Okay, very interesting to see. We have a somewhat confident audience with us. For those of you that are less confident, we'll give you some useful pointers in the next 15-20 minutes. For those of you that know exactly what you're doing, that's great. We'd love for you to share your knowledge with us over the course of the session, and particularly come the Q&A at the end. So I am going to end the poll and keep that information up on the screen for a minute so you can see who else you're sharing today's session with. And then let's get going, Pareen. Shall we share our presentation? Are we having a few technical difficulties? We've made it. Okay, so we're all here today to learn about how to use social media for our projects. Let's skip straight through. What are we going to cover? So we have an intro to using social media, covering some real top tips, then a Q&A. So let's get going. Let's talk about best platforms to use and how to create a presence. Over to you, Prune.
Hi all. So we're going to start with knowing about your audience. So you have to remember when you're on social media that you're talking to real people. And to do this the best you can, you want to know who you're talking to. So to do so, you want to create a persona for yourself, which is a fake audience, your ideal supporter. You want to give it a name, you want to know how old they are, what they do, what their interests are. And then all this information helps you create a social media plan that works for you and them. So for example, if you're trying to attract people who work 9-to-5 jobs, then you can expect them not to be on social media on a Tuesday morning. So you're adapt the way you post to them. Sorry, was someone talking? Oh, my bad. Your audience can be divided into two categories, which is your current audience, the people already on your mailing list, the people on your database that are aware of your work, and then your potential audience, so people who do not know who you are yet, but will find out about you. So once you know a bit more about your audience, you can define where to reach them. So there's quite a bit of information on this slide, and we won't go into details, but please do have a read on your own time. So you've defined who your audience is and where they are. You do not have to use all the platforms available to you. You might not have the resources to do so anyway. So just think of where your audience is and how you can use that platform best to reach them. You can then expand when you have more resources. It's important to remember that you can cross-share as well, which means you can use the same content and post it on different platforms if you wish, but you'll just have to adapt it. So for example, on Instagram, if your audience is on Instagram and Twitter, you will want to use Instagram to share visuals, so photographies, videos to draw your users' attention. But if you're on Twitter, you'll have to make tweets, which will be very brief because you only have up to 280 characters. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter are kind of like the main platforms, and they're all great to build an audience and engage with your community. There's other platforms that you can use, and I'll just mention them very briefly, which are LinkedIn. Apologies for the background noise. LinkedIn is amazing to reach businesses. You can try and use TikTok as well, create short, very impactful videos and reach a younger audience, but it's a platform that's very expanding at the moment. Or if you are running craft sessions, you'll be able to reach people through Pinterest by sharing your templates and what you create. When you're on social media, you want to make sure that you are recognizable. You want to make sure that you stand out from the crowd. And to do this, you want to be able to build your brand. So what you have to do is choose a handle, which is your name displayed on social media. You want to make it as close as your organization's name as possible and use a similar one throughout all your platforms. You want to try to be as consistent as possible with your imagery. So for example, you can use Canva, which is a free tool, and we'll share the link afterwards. And you can create easy template to create posts that align with your organization's colors or your typo if you have one. You can also try to create a hashtag for yourself. You want to find your voice, the right tone, and stick to it throughout your content. You also want to try and join relevant conversations. So when sharing a post mentioning different people, different brands, or organizations, you want to tag them and make sure they see your post and they interact with you and reshare them. You can use hashtags as well to find trending topics and use your voice. So if you run a cat rescue charity, for example, you'll be likely to comment on posts with the hashtags animal cruelty. You want to be where it matters. A great thing to do as well is try to collaborate with other organizations or brands to reach new audiences. On the right, I've put an example of a charity called London Inner City Kitties who partnered with a cat food brand, and they try to convert their customers into their supporters.
Brilliant. So you've heard a bit about which platforms to use and how to build your presence. Now I'm going to speak a little bit about crafting your social media posts. And here you can see I have come up with this 3-step process that I use every time I post on social media. So step 1, attract attention. There are around 200 billion tweets shared each year. That's 500 million tweets a day. To cut through all that noise and get yourself noticed, you can use attention-grabbing images, videos, memes, polls, or a great first line of a caption. And once you've caught someone's attention, you move on to step 2. You want to engage that audience. So you take some time to get someone's attention, and then you turn it into engaging with your project or cause. And you can do that by using imagery, video, or caption to tell a compelling story, or make your audience laugh, or really get them thinking. And then on to step 3, which is encourage action. Remember the thing about there being 500 million tweets every day, and think about the fact that you've managed to cut through, you've got someone's attention, you've managed to engage them. Now make the most of it by asking them to take an action. As it says here, don't simply make noise, make change. You have some examples listed here of example types of action you could encourage, from getting someone to laugh to getting them to donate, or even take an offline action. On the next slide, you can see some example posts that are all from charitable organisations, and each of them have attracted attention, encouraged engagement, and finally action really effectively. The 2 on the left are from major charities, from their Twitter feeds in the last day or so, and the one on the right is of a really successful tweet from a grassroots charity. We don't have time to dwell on this slide right now, but I encourage you to come back to have a look at it when we send the presentation over later this week, and have a think about how they have managed that 3-step process so effectively.
So now that you know who you're talking to, where to find them, and how to craft great posts for social media, you want to find a bit of inspiration if you're unsure of what to share on your platforms. So we've just listed 5 things here for you to have a think on. You can share your day-to-day. What is it like to run your organization? What obstacle did you face today? How many bulbs did you plant? How many cats did you rescue? You can share news relevant to what you do, what laws are being passed, what events are happening in your local area. You can share testimonies from beneficiaries, and these are great because they help show the impact of your organization and how beneficial it is. And it's even better if your supporters publish testimonies on their platform that you can then reshare. You can share promotional content as well, and that's very important because you want to make sure you promote everything that you're doing, from your events to your fundraising. Don't be scared to ask for help and recruit volunteers, and promote everything you do with clear calls to action. You can also try and reshare articles posted by partners or similar organizations to try and build partnerships. You'll see here 2 examples of great content that were shared by several organizations. The first one is Magic's Club More Than a Youth Club campaign, which was used to drive donation and purchasing for their Amazon wishlist. And each post highlights everyday items and how precious they can become to a young person living in a precarious situation. On the right is Stripey's Talk 12 Days of Christmas campaign, which was a brilliant campaign celebrating the lockdown heroes and the volunteers, which is a lovely thing to do. And you'll notice that both hashtags were trending, 12 Days of Christmas, just because it was before Christmas, and Lockdown Heroes, which was very popular.
So I'm sure that the majority of you are aware of how important it is to get permissions before sharing a story. It's a crucial element of storytelling anywhere, and particularly on social media where you're going out so publicly with information. So it's worth taking a moment before you share anything to remember that you have to get permissions, and to get those permissions either in conversation and documented in writing, but crucially documented in writing, especially if you are working with vulnerable individuals, including children. So if you want to share images, videos, quotes, stories of or about someone else, you need their express permission. That said, don't forget to have fun with your social media. So we have 5 top tips to round us off here. 1, appoint a social media lead so that you know someone has it covered and is going to be dedicated to spending some time every day or 3 times a week on your social media. Number 2, get organised. Using a content calendar is a great way of doing this, having a calendar with some notes of the different types of content you could share on each of the days. And you can use tools as well. There are some free ones out there where you can go in, line up your posts, and then they'll be sent out automatically at the times that you schedule them for. The scheduling tools that require payment do ask for a discount. A lot of them can discount for charities. So number 3, be creative with your content. As Perrine shared, it's important to be creative, to share everything from the messy moments as well as sharing fancy branded bits of content that you've worked up on a tool like Canva. Number 4, learn from what works well and what doesn't. If a post gets a lot of likes, try that time of day again, or try the similar type of content again. It clearly works for you. Equally, if a post doesn't get any engagement and doesn't get any reach, do take a moment to think about kind of why that is and what you can change to try and make it work better next time. And number 5, stay engaged. You're on social media, it's important to be social. So respond when people comment and share and tag you in their posts. Now, I'm about to ask you to get involved, so hold tight and let's go to the next slide. We have certainly a few people here who have great social media knowledge. We already know, having polled you. And it would be brilliant if we could get 3 top tips from the group here. If anyone has something that really works for them that they want to share, if you want to put that in the chat or just unmute yourself and share, that would be brilliant. Now this could be anything from a channel that particularly works for an organisation of a certain type to a sort of video content that has been great for you, to a way of working, a scheduling tool that you use and really want to promote as great as part of your organisation. I think we've got something in the chat. Great. Okay, so number 1, Canva is an amazing tool. That it is. We use it a lot. It's free to use. It's a great place to create templates for posts, and you can keep those templates and reuse them. So you can come up with nice images, Twitter cards, Instagram images that are on brand, and yeah, really great. Canva. Number 2, pin your most important post to your profile. So you have an option on Facebook and Twitter certainly to pin a post at the top of your profile. And if you pin one that's really important to you, you're likely to get higher reach and engagement on that particular post. Yes, you will get a recording of this meeting in answer to the person who's asked that in the chat. Another top tip, Calendly. There's a recommendation to use Calendly as a scheduling tool for making meetings quick and efficient. Peter Hughes has suggested using strong strap lines as headlines. So think about headlines in a newspaper and use them as inspiration when you're coming up with a caption. And let's pick up one last one. Later is a suggestion for a scheduling tool. It's really brilliant. Give it a search. It's free for a basic account, and you can connect 5 different accounts. Suggestion of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or Pinterest can be connected up there. I want to keep going. There are so many suggestions coming through, but I don't have time. We will get all of these together and add them to our email that we send you after today's session. We've also had a question of kind of where can more help be sought. We will be linking to some of the really useful resources and guides that we know when we send the email round as well. So before we move into a more general Q&A, I want to just share a little bit about how social media can support your fundraising on Action Funder. So here you can see on Action Funder, once you have signed up and created an organisation profile, you have the opportunity to link your social accounts. This is an example organisation profile from Square Food Foundation, and up there in the top right you can see their social media accounts linked. And those links will be followed by funders who will look at your channels to find out about your organisation. This is true on Action Funder. It's also true in general. Funders will look at your social media to see how active you are and to see what kind of work you do. And there's an added bonus to having an active social media, which is that funders will see that you have high quality content and that you're busy on your channels. So we'll know that you're likely to give great updates if they are going to give you funding. The other thing to note is that actually on Action Funder, the Action Funder team look at your social media as part of our due diligence process. It's one of the long list of things we do just to verify that your organisation does what you say you do. So, Perrine, next slide. And the final note on Action Funder is once you get funded, to share project updates. And you can post light touch updates on your Action Funder project page. You can see an example of one of those on the right there. And those can be shared by the nice little sharing toggle on the top right of that image. They can be shared across your social media. And posting updates on Action Funder is a really simple way to keep funders up to date with your progress. Funders will be notified every time you post an update. And it's a great way to share back to them and to start building relationships with funders. It also offers you the opportunity to get a share from them. And if that's a local business or it's a big brand, that's a great way to reach new followers and a new audience. I think that's everything. So Q&A, let's do it. Does anyone have any questions in particular that you'd like to ask Perrine or myself about Action Funder, about social media, about anything we've covered today, or anything we haven't for that matter? Do feel free to share in the chat or to unmute yourselves and ask the group.
I'll just pick up quickly on Jill's question on Facebook Manager. So Facebook Manager helps you handle your account on Facebook and then any ads that you want to run. And unfortunately, it can be sometimes a bit complicated. And if your account disappears, you can try and have a look at the settings. Maybe you need to share with other people or go into Facebook Helps or reach out directly to Facebook themselves, because unfortunately, we do not have an expert on hand to recommend.
any more for any more? We're happy to respond to any questions about social media and digital marketing in general if you have questions about other channels in your comms. We have something from Katrin. Any specific advice for a social media fundraising campaign? So Katrin, I would suggest that in terms of kind of platforms and how to get people engaged and donating, I go back to what Preen said at the start of the session, which is go to the platforms where your audience or the audience that you want to amass, go to the platforms that you believe they will be on, whether that's Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, anywhere else. Go to where you believe they will be, and then use the 3-step posting process of creating a post that is going to really capture someone's attention and then engage them and encourage action. That action being to get donations. Be creative with it. You could come up with a campaign like the one that Perrine shared, which was, Perrine, can we flip back to it? Was it Magic Club?
Yeah, Magic Club.
Magic Club shared the This Is More Than a campaign. So the one here is This Is More Than a Fork. It's a hot, healthy meal. And that was part of their kind of Amazon wish list promotion, which was a sort of donation campaign that they were being really creative with there, using creative imagery to capture attention and get people involved. More questions coming up here. Are there any that you want to respond to, Perrine?
I would just like to bounce off quickly on the fundraising campaigns, just because I'm assuming quite a few of you might be using them. Just making sure that you use stories as well on Instagram and Facebook if you're using them, just to make it at the front of people's mind, and then sharing updates and milestones as well, and thanking people along the way, so it pushes them. And don't hesitate to ask people to share as well to reach an even bigger audience.
There are a couple of questions about other platforms, including YouTube. Yeah, YouTube is a nice thing to have. It's certainly a good place to store video content that you can then share across your other platforms as well using YouTube links. In terms of reaching people and building an audience, it is quite a neat place in terms of amassing followers, and does require you to put quite a lot of effort in each time you post. So bear that in mind. There's also a couple of questions about ads across Google ads, and I think there was something else about ads on another platform. If you do have money to put into your social media, ads are a great way to go to support you to reach more people with particular posts. I'm not going to share the particulars on Google Ads grants right now, but we will, as I said, be linking to some further resources that will include some information about promoted and paid content. Unfortunately, not going to be able to cover that in the 3 minutes left. Now, any last bits or pieces? Going to respond quickly to developing templates with a suggestion to use Canva again. It's a really great place to develop templates. And
Sorry, just on the templates, did you mean templates for creative posts or more templates for content scheduling, for example? So if it's the latter and you want templates for, all scenarios, so definitely for posts, use Canva. If it's something like content creation, I can recommend Hootsuite has free resources that you can download online, and they have great templates for a lot of things. Otherwise, if you use a simple spreadsheet for content scheduling, for example, with having on the left the platforms that you want to use, and at the top the days of the week, and then just copy pasting per month is also a simple way to do a content calendar and just filling it yourself and color coding if you want. Yeah, and suggestion fun. Anna is Loomly is actually great tool for scheduling as well.
Okay. Any more? We have time for kind of maybe one or two last questions. We try to keep these workshops short and sweet because we know that everybody is busy, and particularly community leads are busy. There's plenty to be doing. As I said, we will be sharing the slides from today's presentation and gathering together all of the top tips that you all shared, as well as signposting to some further resources. We got that final question on how to run a poll on Facebook. Perrine, do you want to respond to that?
I was just having a look now, actually. I think we've mostly run polls on Twitter, which is really easy to do because you have a poll option, but actually can't see it right now on Facebook. But if it's not automated, what you can do is just asking a questions. How many of you would like to use our new garden? Vote with a certain emoji and asking people to vote in the comments directly with a certain pre-made answer.
Brilliant. I asked Perrine to respond to that as our resident social media pro. And yeah, I think we should probably wrap up there. Can we go to the last slide, Perrine, to give a bit of direction, particularly give our email address. So as you can see, we will be sending today's recording out with a copy of the slides and, as I mentioned, direction to some further materials. We will also be including details of our next event, which will be on how to measure your impact. That's on Tuesday 31st at lunchtime, and will be led by Corinna Hartwig, also known as the Funding Doctor, who many of you will be familiar with from other Action Funder workshops. Do be quick if you want to come onto that workshop, it's selling out very fast. I have added in our email address and our Facebook handle. Do follow us on Facebook. And do get in touch on hello@actionfunder.org if you have any questions for us. Finally, if you haven't already, do remember to sign up to Action Funder. And thank you so much for joining us here today. I hope you all can go away and have a lunchtime break now. That's certainly what I'll be trying to do. A final thank you, and hope to see you all again at the next workshop.
Thank you, Lorna, for such a